ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I want to talk to you a bit about Phantom Covert Ops. I apologize if I seem to be looking a little bit up and to the left in this video. It's a little bit weird trying to fit the headset on my head, and I was also very paranoid about checking whether or not the game actually was still recording. And thankfully I didn't need to worry too much about that because the recording does drop out right towards the end and I'd actually actively hear it on my headphones. So that was a bit of a pointless endeavor. But anyway, Phantom Covert Ops is a VR game. It was released, well, by the time you see this video, it will be last week. And, well, there's this other game that came out that I was also looking forward to called Aspire 1, which was trying to do the whole Metal Gear Solid thing, where you were a secret agent, you had all sorts of abilities, and you had to sneak around everything. And I thought to myself, that sounds like a good idea for VR. That sounds like it has a lot of useful potential things that you could do with it. But turned out to not be so great for multiple reasons, and so therefore, after playing a couple of missions of it, I ended up getting a refund on it. I've been waiting for it to go on sale ever since to see if the patches helped out in any way, but well, let's just say it hasn't gone on enough of a sale for me to take that dip just again yet. Phantom Covert Ops was also a similar sort of position for me, you know. It's a stealth game in VR. It has a lot of potential, but it actually does something kind of unique in the fact that you're in a canoe the entire time. The plot is that it's the Cold War, or slightly past the Cold War. I'm not entirely sure. I think I've forgotten. They probably said somewhere in the game. But a general on the Russian side who's decided that the Cold War didn't end in his favor ended up going and getting himself a chemical weapon, and you're in this rundown Cold War facility to stop it. And since these Cold War facilities are completely flooded with multiple tunnels, access points, and what have you, all submerged under a significant amount of water, you're able to canoe into the entire thing. And you're able to just, you know, wander around, shoot people, shoot objects, and just try and stealth your way through the facility. So you spend the entire game in the kayak. You've got 3 weapons on your side, your back, and your chest. You've got a bunch of useful utilities you can use, and you even have a radar with a visibility detector on it, which you can use to make sure that you're not visible, or how close someone is to actually full on seeing you. And you literally paddle your way around the entirety of the game. And it is, I legitimately thought this concept was nuts, but the fact that they were so committed to the idea in like the teaser trailers and what have you, made me think, you know what, I'm gonna have to try this, because this sounds like a fantastic idea. Then they announced that they got Metal Gear Solid star and X-Men screenwriter David Hayter to play the voice of the villain, General Zhurov. I will point out that your name is 02, and if you are even remotely into anime, you'll understand why I chuckle every time I hear that. But yes, there doesn't seem to be that much in the way of story. It's more or less just an excuse for the gameplay to exist, which is absolutely fine by me. No argument, especially since it's kind of hard to justify this sort of gameplay in the first place. I mean, you're in a fucking canoe, for crying out loud. It's actually... Well, here's the thing. This is the thing that I should point out whenever I talk about game design in any way. I'm not very familiar with game design. I have made my own games before, and they sucked for multiple reasons, but yes, I have made games before. I've played a lot of games, and there's one thing that I can say that you need to be able to do in your moment-to-moment, well, whether it be gameplay or something else, like say you're playing a visual novel, and that is making sure the moment-to-moment gameplay is smooth as silk. My favorite example of this, especially in the VR space, would have to be Half-Life Alyx, because that little motion that you do, when you reach out with your gravity glove, you lock onto an item, and you flick your arm backwards to grab it into your hand. That motion is the one thing that can save a game like that from going from extraordinary to a little bit of a pain to play. Because you need to be able to get that ability down just right. And Phantom Covert Ops does an absolutely fantastic job of getting that right. Now, there are a couple of little niggles about it. So it works exactly the same way you would expect a regular canoe to, right? You grab it with both arms, and you swing down on one side, and then you swing down on the other side, and then you keep going back and forth like that to paddle. You can also do it backwards in order to reverse. And there's a couple of other extra tricks they teach you as well, like braking by holding it down on one side. You can do little pushes off the floor of the river or whatever it is you're in order to strafe to the right and left just a little bit. And you can even push off objects. So if you're in a tight space, or if you're coming up on something at high speed and you need to slow down, you can just stick the canoe out and you'll do whatever the canoe expects you to do, because it feels very natural. The best thing about the canoe, I mean, I say natural, I've never actually been in a canoe in my life. You can't like overturn in this thing or anything, but it feels exactly how you would expect it to feel from the moment you notice that you're in a canoe. You pick up the paddle, you start paddling with it, you go at the exact sort of speed that you would expect to go at with each stroke. You get that physical feedback when you like push it off an object or something, and you turn at the rate that you might expect, but they also give you a fast turn button, which lets you just turn really quickly. You just hold it down and your turning is suddenly about 2 to 3 times stronger, which is that one little thing that you notice within the first couple of minutes. It's like, I wish they had a solution for this, and then they give you that solution, and then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, I'm fine with this now. There are a couple of situations that can get a little bit hairy, like sometimes if you're going backwards really fast, or if you need to round a corner really quick, like I'm talking if you need to be super quick and you don't have much room to be precise, sometimes you'll end up doing things like getting stuck on a corner, or like just something like that, you know, just getting stuck in these little tight spaces where you'll have to be spending a little bit of time getting out. Thankfully, it's helped out a bit by the game's stealth system. You see, the game's stealth system is actually pretty simple. It's nothing like Thief, for example. You have an exposed meter. By default, you're exposed in the green. And exposed in the green means that you can be seen if someone looks at you. If someone is looking at you, that turns from green to yellow to red. And then you get a sort of reflex time, a la Metal Gear Solid 5 warning, that you've been seen. So you need to be, you'll basically get a chance to turn around and shoot the guy dead. But if you are hidden in reeds or under specific kinds of things like walkways or inside sewer tunnels or stuff like that, minor things like that, you know, if you're inside like one of those, you will be hidden. And as long as you aren't doing something like firing sniper rounds from cover, you can't be seen. Which is very useful indeed, especially when you get seen by a gigantic spotlight like that, and you're like, oh shit. But thankfully he was on the other side. Thankfully there was no one actually looking in that direction, so that helps me out quite a bit. So you have a very clear idea of where you're able to stay and where you're not able to stay in order to keep yourself out of trouble. And that's very useful, because while some people might not appreciate the fact that there are some areas where as long as you hold still and don't do anything, you can't be seen, even if you're like practically out in the open daylight, or nighttime as they say. But as long as you're in those areas, you can't be seen, so it gives you time to plan your next move, because the absolute best part of this game is getting through without being seen, without killing anybody, and without needing to fire more than a shot to shoot an object in order to create a distraction. Because it is immensely satisfying in this game, where you're in this, by comparison, really kind of shoddy kayak with slow turning radius and general, like, slow get the fuck out of there speeds, and the ability, no ability I should say, to like duck and cover in order to hide. So it is immensely satisfying to get through without having to kill anybody and without being seen. And I'm not going to spoil I'm not going to spoil how I did on this video, but I got to tell you, I was holding my breath the entire time, man. And if you're wondering what that wrist shaking is, it's me being like, oh god, did I seriously just manage to do that? But yes, so it is immensely satisfying to make this all work together. I have never played a game like Thief. I've never played a game with really intense stealth systems. I mean, you could say Metal Gear Solid 5 is about the closest I've gotten, but yeah, I've been playing this a fair bit, and it's one of the most satisfying stealth games I've ever played, because the guards do have pretty damn good sensors. You do need to be watching their patterns carefully and going straight under. And this is the second or third difficulty levels. There's a difficulty level that's harder. Not to mention that they actually get really strong on the high difficulty to the point where they can kill you almost instantly. On the medium difficulty, which is what I'm playing on, you are able to basically blow through if you are fast enough. But yes, the overall stealth action is very satisfying because you just need to... it gives that perfect balance of timing your movements and the precision of those movements. And you learn all sorts of little tricks, like, you know, just letting go of everything and streaking straight into an area right next to a guard, because the game tells you this, and I did actually fall victim to it once myself, and that was more than enough to teach me that lesson, that if you paddle too fast while you're next to an enemy guard, they will hear it and look for you. There are little things like that which I really appreciate. It's really quite something. A couple of other details like that too, like you actually see the general of the game, the main villain, around the second mission, I believe. And I actually took a shot at him, because I'm like, there isn't glass there. No way that he's going to be protected by anything. Nope, that was glass, and he got alerted and ran away, because he's a bastard. Then he hunted me down in a helicopter, which is less bastardly. More assholey. But anyway. Yes, the stealth action is very satisfying, because they design the levels in such a way where it's very beneficial to watch their patterns, look for the objects you can shoot to distract them or dispose of them, because there are some explosives there if you so much desire. And there are a couple of other opportunities you have as well, like the first 3 missions give you access to noisemaker grenades, which is actually a pretty cool idea. You grab the grenade, you throw it, and then you get away while they're distracted. Works for me. And there are tons of little bonuses you can get too. So the game actually grades you on a letter system with points, judging you on how fast you got out, how many people you got spotted by, how many people you killed, how many people you distracted, excuse me. And there's a couple of other things alongside there as well, like how many shots you fired and how many of them hit, and how many high-value targets you found, because there are enemies in this game that are uniformed up, and if you shoot them, they'll give you bonus points. So you want to be looking down, you want to be killing them, but you don't want to be killing anyone else. So, as I said, it is immensely satisfying trying to get through with as few kills and as few deaths and as few spots as humanly possible. Because it's just, seriously, gliding along in this bloody kayak with no one knowing you were ever even there. It is immensely satisfying. And it helps, it's helped by the fact that the game has a fantastic sense of scale. You feel tiny in this kayak, right? You have a helicopter chasing you down. You have these huge structures all around you. You have enemies on guard boats running around looking for you. You're sitting under this walkway with this enemy guard walking across you. You can see his feet in the grating above your head. It gets that sense of scale and general weakness that you would feel perfectly right, which is why I'm so disappointed they give you so much for your weapons and ammunition. So you do have guns. In the footage that you're seeing, for story reasons, I'm down to only a pistol and a SMG. The pistol is exactly what you think it is. The SMG is a 3-round burst SMG, but it is mainly for getting into combat if you need it. And you also gain access to a sniper rifle. And the sniper rifle is very useful for taking away targets from far away, but the enemies can and will lock straight onto that, as will be seen by some footage past this mission. But yes, the weapons themselves aren't really that fun to use, but frankly I don't care, because that's not the point. The point is to try and get through as sneakily as possible. If all things work out for you, all you need is a couple of shots from your pistol and you're done, more or less. Hell, sometimes you don't even need that. There is a section in this game where you have to go through a entire level segment with nothing but the kayak paddle in your hands. You don't have a gun to fight back with. You just have to sneak, which is one of the more interesting segments of the game. They're more than happy to throw these weird situations at you, which I really appreciate. It keeps the variety up. It doesn't make it feel like just a series of purposefully designed kayak stealth simulations, you know? It gives it a sense of continuity and flow to have all these weird little things happen from time to time, like needing to sneak in next to this absolutely gigantic passenger barge of some kind, or needing to stay out of the spotlight of a helicopter, or needing to avoid every single enemy entirely because if you've got no guns then you can't fire back. And it's got all these little environmental details as well, like you've got this radio show put on by another soldier who's clearly very unhappy about his job. You've got these little conversations you can hear between the enemy troopers, and every stage, not only do they have high-value targets that you can find a way to kill without setting off the entire rest of the level, but you've also got these little number stations that you can find, but I didn't manage to find any of them. I don't know if they weren't there, or if I just didn't go off the beaten path enough, or what, but there's 2 of them in every stage for you to go find, and I didn't find any of them. This is the 4th mission. This is the first time I was playing the 4th mission, so I'm about halfway through the game, and I didn't see any of them, so there's plenty to go back for. What else is there? You do get a viewfinder that lets you both tag enemies and objects that you can use to distract said enemies, but I think that the tags stick around for a bit too long, especially for enemies. As soon as you tag someone, they are never not going to be tagged anymore, so you can see exactly where they are and what they're doing. Very easy to see whether or not you're about to get run over by a guard boat or not in that sense. It'd be nice if they didn't stick around forever, although that might be the case as of the higher difficulty. I can't possibly be sure because I didn't play on the high difficulty, although considering how cool this game is, I might have to. So, yeah, you've got a lot to go for in the main story, and as I said before, they reward you stuff based on your points. So you get any letter rank from D to S, and when you finish a level on rank D, you get nothing except like a couple of regular rewards. But if you finish a level at rank B, you get a challenge. If you finish a level on rank A, you get a second challenge. If you finish a level on rank S, you get cheats. So if you do really well, you actually unlock a bunch of cheats for the game. And there are the usual ones that you might expect, like infinite ammo, infinite supplies, infinite health, invisibility, etc. But they're more than happy to throw a bunch of other little weird ones as well. Like, say, big head mode, or heads explode mode, or you're way bigger than the world mode, or you're way smaller than the world mode. Little things like that, you know, just little extra fun things to give you to let you replay when you've exhausted everything there is to possibly do. So with that said, how long is the game? So you've got the hang over with me here. You've got 7 main campaign levels, and I'm not going to claim to know how long they all are, but there hasn't been a single level so far which hasn't been shorter than 30 minutes. They're all quite long. In fact, this is like what feels like one of the shortest of the bunch, because they're consistently like changing up level objectives on you to the point where it feels like one level could be split into 2 levels without really raising any eyebrows just due to their length. But yeah, it took me like an hour to finish the first level. Then the second and third took me about 40 minutes each, and this one took me about 30-35. You'll see the exact time come up when I actually finish the level. So assuming they all are around this length, which is a relatively safe assumption unless they actively like make the last level shorter. 3 hours, 3.5 hours for the main campaign on your first time through. Maybe a bit longer depending on how many times you fail or whether you want to focus on getting perfect stealth, no kills. But then you've also got the challenges I was talking about, of which there are 14, and they're basically just like time attacks. At least the ones that I played, where you have to go and kill either everyone or you have to kill all of the high value targets, and then the rest of it works under the game's rules, where it's like, you know, you can't be seen, you can't kill any unrequired targets. You know, and there are other challenges with other sorts of types of things, but those are the only ones that I unlocked. So, you know, I kind of have to work with what I know. But with that said, they are also, they're timed, and they're also ranked on leaderboards along with the main missions. So you can fight for the high score if you so desire, which is a nice touch. And as I said before, you've got the 2 tapes hidden on every level. You've got ranking up on every level, not only to unlock the challenges, but to unlock extra bits of equipment that you can use in free play. You've got things like skins and guns and equipment and stuff like that. So you can go in and play a level how you so desire for that high score. But still, realistically, to get through everything the game has, I'd say at least 5 hours, probably longer, just because you need to put in a fair bit of time in order to unlock all those challenges. And giving every challenge at least a few times through to try and actually get a good score on it, because the challenges do actually unlock you bonuses. Well, that's another couple of hours on top. So the game's got a decent amount of, like, time, right? Excuse me. The game's got more than a decent amount of time to pull you along, let you kayak, which is good. Because a couple of problems with some of these VR games that have come out recently is that they don't feel like they've got much to them for their price. Now, this is a quote-unquote full retail VR game, because it's by Oculus. It's on the Rift and the Quest. And this is Quest footage, if the video title didn't give that away, by the way. I actually tried recording this on Oculus Rift, but for some reason, it had this weird, like, checkerboard effect over the footage that made it look like a giant spotlight was being shined on it at all times. It was weird. So I just defaulted back to this Quest footage.
Clean kill 02.
But yes,
Yeah.
this is one of those full retail games where they charge like $40 US for it. And there are a couple of games that really haven't proven to be worth that. Like, I'd say, while I Expect You to Die was a really good game in and of itself, until they put in the bonus missions on the end, which, like, doubled the game's length overall. I wouldn't say that game was worth $40, just due to the sheer little time that you would get from it. And there's a few VR games that are like that. Like Batman VR, when that launched, and it was like $40 for an hour of gameplay. Yeah, I don't know what the hell they were thinking there. I've heard that game is great. I still need to play it. I actually own a copy of it, but I got it for like $5. So, yeah, but this game, it's got the longevity to last. I'll give it that. What I will also give it is actually looking really damn good. Now, you are looking at the Quest version here. And the Quest version is not going to look as hot as the Rift version. Thankfully, you do get both versions. So if your computer is VR capable enough and you've got a high enough speed VR cable, a USB-C cable, I should say, or if you've got access to, say, a virtual desktop when they get around to adding compatibility for this game to it, because it doesn't work right now, I checked, trust me. But once you get around to, if you get it on Quest, you can also play it on Rift on your computer, and it's got cloud sync, so you can, when you play it on the Quest and you get to Mission 4, then you can boot it up on the computer and play Mission 5. It does work like that. It actually works pretty well. Good job, guys. That's not very often you see that. But yeah, this version, the Quest version, I should say, still manages to stand up to its PC brethren. The place is dark, dank, murky, dirty, and unimpressive until you get into the labs, which are straight-edged, clean, and just otherwise somewhat even weirder than being outside here. But the guards look great, the explosions are fun. As I said before, the sense of scale is just right. So everything looks like it's just the right size, just the right whatever. And it also runs pretty well too. I didn't notice anything in the way of performance drops. It just looks good and runs good and plays really well, because it's really well optimized. They've been working on this for a while, actually. I've been playing games on the Oculus Quest for a while, and this is probably one of the most well presented games on the Quest here. It's really well done. Everything feels right. There's nothing that is particularly out of place of what I've managed to play so far. It works really well, and I'm really surprised by that, because you know who made this? It was a group called N-Dreams, and if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly, but I'm just going to Google this just to be safe. But I just need to go and have a look on Wikipedia for a second here, because I'm pretty sure I know these people. No, never mind. I'm thinking of a completely different set of developers. I thought this was, what was it? Oh, is this true? Oh, they're one of the leading developers of stuff that was on PlayStation Home. They didn't make PlayStation Home, but they made a lot of stuff on it. But yes, Dreams did an absolutely fantastic job here. It's very well made, it's very well produced. I haven't noticed much in the way of bugs. The only real bugs that I've noticed have been with the speech implementation. I've regularly heard like multiple guards and voice lines being played over each other. Like for example, when you first meet the Russian spy Leon, he's standing right in front of you and talking to you. They put it through on both the radio and on the on him as a person at the same time, and it's really bizarre. It's really weird because you hear both him talking and him talking to you through the radio, and it's just not great. And there's a couple of situations like that I've run into, including in this video. Although I will put in somewhat props to David Hayter, aka Mr. Solid Snake himself, for doing a pretty good job as Zhurov, although it's kind of hilarious because just like with his voice performance for Zangetsu with Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, he kinda, half the time he sounds like a unique character, and then by the end of the sentence he'll have slipped back into Solid Snake but a bit gruffer voice, which is great. I kind of appreciate that. But yes, it's fine. He does a good enough job that I'm able to, you know, look past the fact that he basically just sounds like Solid Snake, but if he went Russian. So what else do I have to say about it? I don't really think I've got much to say about it. I don't really want to comment on the music because there's not that much. And frankly, a game like this is at its best when it doesn't feel the need to be constantly using like music tones or anything, right? It's just better. It's better for the atmosphere. See, it's a well-presented, well-made, really fun stealth game about being in a kayak. Not something that you would think to be saying when you heard about the Oculus development kit. The development kit 1 coming out back in 2014, was it? It's been a while. I remember when they first announced the like requirements for base level VR, and it was like my computer is exactly that. I wasn't even kidding. Like the exact scheme was like i5 4590, GTX 970, 8 gigs of RAM, and that's exactly what my machine was at the time. It was almost freaky. But yeah, I didn't think when I heard like about what VR was that it was going to be a game about stealthing it out in a kayak. And I enjoy it greatly. It's a really well done game. It's really well done on the PC, where it's got tons of graphical options that really help it out. It's really well done on the Quest, where it's been ported over really well. It runs great. It looks great. It is really well done for a standalone headset. It's got a fair few gameplay options, including comfort blinders and whether or not you just got to close both eyes or just one eye. Or close both eyes, you know what I mean. When you're using a sniper rifle scope, it's got decent audio balancing options, although I don't think the default balance works quite right. I'd recommend turning the dialogue up a bit over everybody else, but other than that, it seems to work okay.
Besides which, NATO cannot
but yeah,
respond in time.
if you're in a VR headset, I wholeheartedly recommend Phantom Covert Ops. It's really good. It's got a good amount of playtime. It's got a really satisfying main gameplay mechanic with a fair few little tricks to it. It's got plenty of content, a decently length campaign, a bunch of bonus missions, and some extra little things like cheats to give you a couple more reasons to play when you've done absolutely everything else. It feels appropriate. Like, this is the sort of game I would have been happy paying like full price for back on the PlayStation 2, you know? It would have given me a good experience for a few hours, a few reasons to come back and keep playing, and things like the online leaderboards to score attack against other people. Well, that's just a bonus. Yeah, Wholeheartedly recommend it. This has been Blue Maxima. I'll let you watch the rest of this footage. I'll see you all next time.
Control, I'm checking on possible hardware failure. Over.
Final fuel depots nearby. Did it. Shurov can't escape. But this isn't over yet.
Return to me, Phantom. This is the safest route back into the ruins.
I'm picking up a transmission from Shurov.
We are moving up to launch. I need all men at their stations. All other concerns are secondary.
And send out Arlova and her snipers. There's one water rat. There could be more. Shit. Arlova. Even in this hellhole, she is feared.
So, Zhurov is deploying his best.
Listen to me, comrade. Arlova is the only one who saw through my cover. She is the reason I am trapped here. You must end her before it is too late.
dead. Cross another on our most wanted list.
Perimeter suite deployed on mission.
They're dead. Cross another on our most wanted
Perimeter
list.
sweep deployed on possible bridge. Control with target.
We'll report activity.
Control.
Over.
We'll report on any further activity. Over. Control. Got a hardware malfunction here. Moving to investigate. Over. What happened here?
High value target is down. Good work, 02.
Control. Possible perimeter breach. Patrol moving to investigate. Over. Control. Suspicious activity detected. Checking it out. Over.
Excellent work. I'll update our HVT records.